book launch comprises many elements. It's the technical button pushing that makes your book live for the world to see. It's your launch team activities, it's your social media messages, and maybe your live videos, and maybe even your Amazon ads. But it can also include a real live in-person event, maybe a party. You get to decide what kind of launch event fits with you, your personality and your goals, your book, your network, and your audience. And if you're looking for ideas, this is the podcast episode for you. We are talking with Colleen Clark, author of the 2023 book Compassion: The Soulful Art of Healing Trauma. Colleen pulled together one of the most incredible book launch events we've ever seen. You are going to hear how she decided what kind of party she wanted, what went into the planning, and how it all came together.
Welcome to the Ingenium Books podcast for the author, publisher, changemaker.
Being an author is something that you've got to take seriously.
If you're an indie author, you take the risk, you reap the rewards, you are in charge of the decisions, you're the head of that business.
What happens if you start writing your book before you identify your why? What's the problem with that?
The Ingenium Books podcast. Your podcast hosts are Bonnie and John Wagner-Stafford of Ingenium Books.
Hey, that's us. Colleen, welcome to the Ingenium Books podcast.
Thanks, Bonnie. Super excited to be here, that's for sure. Yeah.
So why don't we let you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it's raining right now. I'm a clinical social worker. I've been in practice. I'm a therapist for 40 years, so a long time. And I've had an amazing journey in my career as a therapist, as a clinical social worker. And I've taught at the University of Calgary for about 24, 25 years as an instructor. I am also recognized as a trauma expert. I presented my work internationally. I'm also the person who brought accelerated resolution therapy art into Canada about 9 years ago. And how I did that was through the Care West Operational Stress Injury Clinic in Canada. And at that time, art wasn't evidence-based. So I did a pilot project. I got permission, great support with my manager at that time. And since that time has happened, I've trained over 50. I'm also the trainer for Canada, one of them now. I've trained over 1,500 therapists across the East Coast, the West Coast, even in the States. And through my journey, I'm very spiritual. I'm very much focused on humanity and really believing. And I've always had a book inside of me, but didn't know what that was going to be. And one of the questions, how the book even got kind of formulated, was all the therapists would ask me in the trainings that I would do, what do you do before you do accelerated resolution therapy? So that being said, I got connected to the most amazing editor, Marie, and we worked together for about a good year and a half. That was our COVID project. So good things did come out of COVID.
Right.
And basically, I'd say 40 years of my practice that we were able to put together everything that I know clinically and created Compassion: The Soulful Art of Healing Trauma, my first book.
Well, that is quite the journey, and congratulations on that first book. And it's doing fairly well.
Thank you.
And
Thank
it
you.
is a beautiful book. In the show notes, we'll put the link so that you can check out the book. It's a beautiful cover. So your book published earlier in 2023, end of April, if I remember correctly. And you initially, leading up to that published, and Ingenium Books is the publisher of your book, so I know a little bit about
publisher. Yeah,
just a little bit about that.
Yeah, you've got it.
But you weren't initially talking about having an event. So tell me and tell us how the idea came about
Sure. So I can tell you. So probably about 3 years before the book was even published, or before I even found Marie and found you, people would always say to me, "You've got to write your book. You've got to write your book." And then when the book was in process and it was actually having a publishing date, as we know, we worked on it really hard, everybody together. People will say, "You got to do a book launch." So all my colleagues, all the people that would be assisting me in these trainings, you've got to do a book launch. And my first thing is, because I didn't really know. I'm going like, well, no, I don't. It's not that big of a deal to do a book launch, and no, it's not. It's not about me. But then it became this process where I went, yeah, you know what? This is a big deal. And it became almost like a birthing. And so the analogy I kind of got connected with, this book was inside of me for such a long time. And I had these amazing supporters helping with the birthing process, and people that I've known professionally in 40 years. For me, it became then a real driven fact of, we needed to celebrate this, because it's just not about me and my work. And I think that's how I got around when I first said, no, it's not a big deal. I work in collaboration, and I wouldn't be who I am, and I would not be where I am without everybody that I've ever met, whether that's, the Dean of Faculty of Social Work, whether that's my clients, whether that's everybody that has worked and supported with me. So I then flipped it around in a really big time way, and I went, this is going to be the party of my life. And that's what happened.
And it was. Okay. So much that I was at the event.
I know.
I was
So that was
privileged
super cool.
Yeah, privileged to be at the event. So, when I think when authors think about book launch events, many times at least the authors that I have listened to and spoken to, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to do a reading and a signing. And it kind of gets put into this box of, that's really all it's going to be. And yours included signing and a reading, but it really was more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try to ask some specific questions about things. So first of all, it was held in the summer, or before the technical launch of
June
summer,
9th.
but it was
Yep.
early June. It was
June 9th. Yep.
nice weather, and so you tell me about the location that you chose and how you chose it.
So it came to a point where I was having people look at venues for me. Then I just actually sat one Sunday in my backyard with my flowers, and I went, where would I like to be? And then what came to me, the Dean House in Calgary, which is this most amazing heritage building house in Calgary, but with amazing gardens. And then I went, I'm going to call and see if it's available. And guess what? I believe in timing, and it was. So then that became, well, maybe 20 people will come. And then it became, well, there was close to 90 people there, right? So it just kind of grew, and it kind of took a life of its own. And then it became this part of, well, how do I want it to look? And from everything, from the music to flowers to food to who was going to come, and it was going to be a celebration. It really was.
And it definitely was a celebration. I want to come into the look.
Okay.
So when we were, before we even had a cover concept, we were having conversations with you and with Marie about what were some of the images that were important to you. And there's a story in your book about, I'm not going to give it away because people can read what the story is, but there is reference to a white owl. So the book cover has some white feather representations on it. I want you to talk to me about, well, sure. So we are recording the video. Yes, there is the book cover. There is the little bits of the, for those of you listening on audio, you can find the video version on YouTube, probably a couple weeks after this publishes. But it's a gorgeous book cover. And so, maybe real quick, why is that symbolism of the feather important to you?
Well, I'm known as White Owl, and that's very significant for me that the work that I've been really blessed to do, I really believe it does come from a higher power. Just everything has come together, and I'm very guided. So it was honoring, I think, on a spiritual level, that journey, my journey. And so the white owl represents a lot of who I am and the work that I've been able to do, and coming from a really strong place of compassion for people and self-compassion.
So, how did that feather symbolism show up at your book launch
Oh, it
party
was
event?
everywhere. It was everywhere. So the feathers, I got white feathers, ordered them on Amazon. They were all in the books because the books really sold. I had feathers in my hat. I had this crazy hat that I got. That was crazy, but it had feathers in it, even down to peonies. I had this visualization that I wanted peonies because they represent to me feathers. The petals are so delicate. So there was these amazing hundreds of peonies, of white peonies and the soft pink peonies, but feathers were everywhere. And I had these amazing, my granddaughter helped me make these, the little, well, with the rocks in it and the glass, and some of them had feathers sticking out of them. So feathers were really prevalent everywhere. And then my cake that I had at the book launch, it was a complete representative of the book. It was profound, and of course, it was all feathers, and it was absolutely profound. And I also did bookmarks, and I made those, and I had them made, but I also found tassels, that white tassels that I put on them to represent feathers. So to me, it was an absolute flow of intent and intention with the theme.
You mentioned the cake, and it really was like, oh, there was a cake. No,
No,
no. This was, let's see, how big was this cake?
this cake was the biggest they could ever make it. It was for 100 people, and the cake was $500. I can tell you that.
Oh,
Yeah, the cake
wow.
was the cake was amazing.
Oh, there's a picture of
And
the cake. Yeah,
yeah, if you can never
and
see that, but yeah,
that photo that you're holding up, you
yeah,
can't tell how big that cake is, but I'm going to say I'm going to guess
2
18
feet.
inches by
Yeah,
30 inches.
yeah, easy. Yeah,
Was
it
massive.
was
And it
profound.
was a spectacular um, recreation of the design of the
Yeah,
book cover. It was really
I know
amazing.
they
Yeah.
did. They did. Yeah.
So, I would like you to talk to us a little bit now about the program. So,
Mm,
how you structured the order of events.
okay. Well, for me, it was really important that music was going to be played. And I was very specific that the type of music that was going to be played was going to be the Beatles. So that
And
was
why
really
is
an
that?
important. What's that?
Why is
Well,
that?
because Imagine is my song about John Lennon, as we all know. And I was very specific and had to find the right people that could play the Beatles, but also John Lennon's Imagine. So that took a long time to find the right musicians to do that. Imagine was playing in the background uh, to sort of gather everybody together for the programming at the beginning, and then at the end, Imagine was weaved throughout the whole night, but with the Beatles. So Imagine represents my place of hope for humanity, and I do believe that the world can heal, and so I hold that space. And I think I know for myself, Lennon really represents that philosophy and that belief that I carry forward in my work and my purpose on this planet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was the start of the programming. And then it got into, oh my gosh, well, what do you do in a program? And, and because I'm usually not having to plan that kind of stuff. And then it went into, well, who do I want to speak at the program? What would be important? So my background is very much coming from a place of intention. And
Mhm.
so I thought, who could be the master of ceremonies? And I picked somebody who has been an amazing cheerleader for me, an amazing assistant in the art trainings and everything like that. And then I thought, wow, we need Bonnie to speak. I need my publisher to speak. So Sarah's going to introduce Bonnie. And then we had, of course, Marie speaking, and as my editor and just a delightful friend. And then Robin Pickett came, who's the director of Accelerated Resolution Therapy. She flew all the way in from Florida, and she spoke about art. But I think what happened that I wasn't quite prepared for, because I'm always celebrating people, I I wasn't aware that people were going to celebrate me. So there were things said that were absolutely so beautiful. And then I spoke, yeah, because I wanted to celebrate my daughters because they've been part of my journey. And then I was blown away. My 11-year-old granddaughter, she got up, Sarah, and she said what she wanted to say about her Nana. And then that was absolutely profound. I was so proud
It
and so
really
proud.
was. She
I
was
know
amazing.
she's just going to kick it. She's just incredible. And then it was really important that I, at the end of the program, that was probably maybe half an hour, 25 minutes, I
I
think,
think
right?
so.
Yeah, but I really needed to honor Dr. Stephen Boucher, who's the psychiatrist colleague of mine, and how we work together. And so I called him up and I had to say what I had to say to Dr. Boucher. So it was really an honoring and a celebrating and gathering together a collective of people professionally. And also my manager spoke, who she, if it wasn't for her, art wouldn't be here in Canada to the way it is. So I think it's acknowledging and taking the time to be grateful. And for me, the night was full of grace. It really was.
Yeah, that's one of the things that struck me. I mean, it was an amazing event, but one of the things that struck me was how you created the giving back
Mm.
um, component. We were all there to celebrate you and your book, but you made it very clear that you were there not really to celebrate you, but to celebrate everybody else
Yeah.
who played a part in the journey. And that was very touching. It was very nice.
Well, thanks, Bonnie, because I saw it as an opportunity to say thank you.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think that place of gratitude. And, you know, I don't think we have the time or the ability sometime to take the time. And I saw this as the greatest opportunity. This is my biggest party I've ever thrown. And it wasn't just for the book or the book launch, but it was to acknowledge and to celebrate all of us because we're part of a collective of
Yeah.
who we all are. And we can't do things on our own. And I've always been aware of that. So
Yeah.
it was beautiful. Yeah.
Um, we have to talk about books
Yeah.
and book. You know, the obviously the book launch event. So it was
Hmm.
about books, and we kind of skimmed over it, but there were books available. You did plenty of book signing.
Oh,
You
yeah.
sold a ton.
You bet. Yeah. And you sold a ton.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah. And I signed a ton. Yeah. It was profound. People were buying 10 books at a time, and ordering them and wanting me to sign them. And what was important for me when I was signing the book, because I would know these people buying the book, I had to write something very personal,
Yeah.
and so to me, that was an important part of that. but yeah, we brought the books, and I'll tell you, the books are just about gone, right? So that's on that level that I have now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was
Yeah.
very cool.
So that was all, and it was so nice to see everybody wandering around and mingling, and they have your book under their arm. And I was saying before we started recording that a forthcoming Ingenium Books author had come down from Edmonton to attend, and she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, am I supposed to organize this for when it comes my turn?" And it's, well, everybody needs to do their own thing, and you
Hmm.
most definitely did your own thing. We didn't, other than the cake, we didn't really talk about food. And so I think we
Oh,
just I have to get
oh
you to
yeah.
talk about the food.
Okay. So, so think about it this way. Okay. The way that my brain went, if I was going to have the biggest party that I ever wanted to have, what would I want to have all in it from
Right.
top to bottom? Right. So my brain went, I'd like to have a signature drink. And that's where it kind of, that was one of the things. So what was a signature drink going to be? And it could be alcohol or non-alcoholic, whatever. And it was called, of course, Compassion. And it was, I think it was mango juice, and it was some other thing, but it was beautiful. I think they even had little flowers in it. And I worked with the whole catering team at the Dean House, and the food was outstanding. They had cheeses, they had hors d'oeuvres, the food just kept coming and coming and coming. So I spent probably a good 2 weeks going through the menu and to being really selective of what I would think the audience, like my friends, my colleagues,
Yeah.
what they'd enjoy, right? And mindful about that. And it was very classy. It was all white tablecloths, and um, they would come around with hors d'oeuvres. It was just really, really amazing, and the dress code, I thought about that. So everybody got dressed, and I said, yeah, dress up, let's celebrate. It was almost like this amazing summer garden party. And yeah, and I even had people coming through going to the restaurant because we were in this big tent gazebo outside in the garden, saying, can I hang out here? I'm going to come back and buy one of your books. And they did. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, it was very good. So one of the people that came to your book launch event, which was a last minute invitation extended. By the time this podcast episode publishes, there may shortly be some other news. Maybe not, and maybe I'm letting something out of the bag here. But the founder of an organization called the Women of Inspiration came by your book launch event, and subsequently you have been nominated for this incredible award,
Yeah.
Women of Inspiration Award, and
Yeah.
you recently had some news about that. Can you tell us what
Yes.
that news
No,
is?
for sure. And just on a really quick little note, Monica was just going to come and check it out. She stayed the whole night. She had such a blast at it. So that was just really, really cool, right?
Yeah.
So I heard just probably about a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that I'm one of the finalists at this amazing, it's an International Woman of Inspiration award, right, in Toronto, November 3rd. So I'll be flying out. And it's a red carpet thing. So it's just like, I have no idea where things are going. But you know
Yeah.
what? I love it. And I think, you know what I think is so beautiful about the book and about everything? Sometimes we hold on to these fears inside of ourselves, like, I don't really have anything to say. But it's almost like when you say the word yes, even though it's going to be tough and you have no idea how it's all going to unfold. But that's just kind of who I am. It's like the yes, and the yeses are just keep coming and coming and coming. So yeah, so super excited about that in November. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I've been told I'm one of the finalists. So who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to work very hard to get there too.
Yeah.
I would, yeah. So
Well,
we'll
well,
see. Yeah,
that's good. Robin's coming up from Florida, so
excellent.
why not?
Yes. So something that it occurred to me that I need to do for people is because you talked about the signature drink compassion, we talked about the cover of compassion, you showed the picture of compassion, and there's a play on words a little bit here. So
Mhm.
if you're just listening, the book title is actually two words. Come, COME, and then passion, PASSION. It's not the single word compassion. Um, I think we should just quickly talk about how that came about.
Sure. So you've been so helpful with my email with that. So fixing that for me, for sure.
Right.
So so it originally started, and my book has got a lot of my writings and my process, and it's for therapists and other people who are buying it, like tons of people are that I know of. Um, but part of it, it's really about, it started compassion. We need to be compassionate with other people and also self-compassionate with ourselves, coming to that loving place. And the play on words is, once we can embrace that and be compassionate with self and also others, then guess what's going to happen? Your passion is just going to explode. And so that's really the whole crux of the title and the book and my work, and with art, and to give therapists new life and new possibilities, and clients, that we don't need to be stuck in these old paradigms, that we can move blocks and people can heal. And it's then we can actually be free and live our life and be in our journey and have fun and to play and to be really joyful, right? And full of gratitude.
It's fantastic. So, congratulations on the book, on your nomination for Women of Inspiration Award, on an incredible book launch event, and I am going to make sure that my seatbelt is fastened. So, for when you tell me what is in store for you next year,
Okay, I have no idea,
we'll
but
wait and see.
wait and see. I'm planning a trip to Scotland next July, so you never know where that's going to end up. Who knows, right? But
Exactly.
it's amazing. So thanks.
All right. So, Compassion, the Soulful ART of Healing Trauma by Colleen Clark is available wherever you like to buy your books. And we'll be looking forward to the big next bits of news from Colleen Clark. And thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Bonnie, thanks so much. You're just a gift, you and John, and just everybody, the whole team. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Ingenium Books podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, but also consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, where you can see these episodes in addition to hearing them.